Hiya, freaks and ghouls, slashers and psychopaths, scatty cats and scatty dogs. I'm your horror host with the motherfucking most, the Headless Glen, and welcome to Graveyard Grumblings, where I talk about whatever the fuck I want. Back in the day when I still had a head, I used to be a fan of the CWDC shows. Now, that was back when it was just Arrow in the first season of The Flash, and little did anyone know how bad things were gonna become. But arguably, they already were kind of bad. But that doesn't really matter for today's topic, as for starters, we are only covering it in terms of power scaling, so the plot doesn't really matter, and two, we aren't even covering the show. We are covering the HeroClix version of Arrow. Also, for those who think this won't be crazy, I suggest you look at my last video covering HeroClix Master Chief, and you will get an idea of how broken HeroClix can get. Unlike Master Chief, it is likely that Arrow doesn't scale to the crazy cosmic tier that the Chief does, outside of possibly one argument I'll mention at the end of this section. This is because Oliver is only 75 points, which is a far cry from the 159-point Soldier who scales above characters who can fuck up universes. Arrow is still strong though, as he should scale above various characters who can cause different types of natural disasters. Major disaster is stated to be able to mimic the effects of natural disasters and possesses the ability Quake, which, when defined, is short for earthquake. With how his earthquakes can affect other characters, being able to knock them back, it would definitely be felt outside and thus would fit the description of at least a magnitude 5 earthquake, which itself scales from about 1.99 times 10 to the 12th joules to about 1.112 times 10 to the 13th joules, or multi-city block to small town level, which is actually consistent with Storm, who can create cyclones to protect herself. This could be referencing to a hurricane, which generates 1.3 times 10 to the 17th joules daily, which could come out to about 1.5 times 10 to the 12th or multi-city block level in terms of energy per second, with cloud formations scaling significantly higher than this, likely upscaling into the town level ranges, or potentially higher as we'll get into. Arrow can scale above Avalanche, who is able to split the Earth with his version of Quake. Earth in this statement likely isn't referring to the entire world, though one could argue it might be. But for this, we will be going with the low-end interpretation, that he's just shifting and breaking apart the ground. This would likely be similar to the September 7th magnitude 8.2 earthquake that struck southern Mexico and split a tectonic plate in half. An earthquake of this magnitude would be about 6.3 times 10 to the 16th joules, or about city level. Storm, another version of Storm, can create, storms that would be in this range, given the cloud creation feats range from small city to city level, with an absolute high end coming out to about mountain level via cloud kinetic energy. The way we can get this way higher is by Avalanche stating he's a threat to humanity as a whole, which could be argued to be vaguely multi-continental, as being able to affect humanity on this scale would likely require this level of power. This also grants some credence to Avalanche's earlier statement of being able to split the Earth being more literal than metaphorical. So we have Arrow at about at least city level, possibly mountain to multi-continental at best, Though you can get higher if you argue Arrow scales above the 70-point Mixie, who is stated to be 5th dimensional. So if you want to take the high end, Arrow would be also low complex multiversal physically, but again, that's the highest possible end for the character, and city level and slightly higher is likely the better end. As discussed in my last video, there are various statements that should get basically all hero clicks to immeasurable speed, as they are all able to dodge, tag, and react to characters who can move and attack at these speeds, such as Zoom with his ability speeding up and down the timeline. And I know the overarching ability is called hypersonic speed, but that shouldn't be the cap for statements like this, that are replacing the ability's name, as they are replacing the name of the ability. And taking just hypersonic speed would not only be a naming fallacy, but there's characters who have hypersonic speed that are stated to be slower than hypersonic speed. So it's actually, this movement speed varies depending, but they are still all able to react to characters moving and attacking at immeasurable speeds. I mean, Silver Surfer is able to outrun a time loop, which would require him to outrun time to a degree, which would be immeasurable speed. There also are speeds like going around the Earth in microseconds. Those are considered slower than the immeasurable speed movement speeds of certain characters, and those characters moving at those speeds are still able to attack while going at those, again, crazy immeasurable speeds. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, while Arrow can't run at those speeds, he's able to react to characters who can attack and react at those speeds. So, again, Arrow should be able to fight and dodge at immeasurable speeds. The Arrow is an incredibly skilled individual, with a keyword confirming he's some type of martial artist. It is stated he is trained in all forms of combat, which includes being an expert in close and ranged combat, with reflexes that make him harder to hit in close quarters. He is also shown with his ability Fade into the Shadows that he's skilled in stealth techniques, which allow him to basically become untaggable in cover, or at least when trying to be targeted from far away. While he doesn't have many abilities, he does have enough of them to be a threat. With Close Combat Expert and Range Combat Expert, he can increase both his attack stat and his damage output when in close quarters combat or at a distance, respectively. He also has the ability You Have Failed the City, which grants him Precision Strike, which makes it where damage dealt by him cannot be fully reduced, meaning it is a form of damage reduction nullification. It also makes it harder for characters to be able to dodge any of his attacks, even these immeasurable speed characters. The Arrow also has access to many feat cards, which are extra abilities that can only be used when certain criteria are met. While I won't be covering all his abilities he is granted through these feats, I will be tackling some notable ones. Given he has the keyword Celebrity, he is granted Starstruck Admirer, which allows him the ability to stun a target once per game. Lore-wise, this is seemingly supposed to be like an opponent realizes he's a celebrity and freezes up. So this might be more of a mental stun than a physical one, but that's debatable. With Double Time, Arrow is able to double his movement speed. Indomitable makes him more difficult to stun or mind control. Mental shields make Arrow incapable of being mind controlled at all, even by characters who can manipulate higher dimensional beings. With Lazarus Pit, Arrow can potentially resurrect himself from being incapacitated, though it does have the chance of driving him temporarily insane. So yeah, these are some interesting abilities, and I haven't even gone over all of them. So yeah, Arrow's kinda cracked. While this version of the Arrow might not scale above the Injustice version of himself in terms of physical strength, unless you use the high end, then one could even argue he's stronger than the Spectre version of his canon self. You can definitely argue he is the best package of both skill, strength, and abilities, but most importantly, his speed is insane. He is definitely destroying many characters in his tier because of his speed alone. He can one-tap Eyeless Jack and speed blitz Remy along with all of My Hero Academia, and just because of his speed advantage, he likely wrecks the verse. But yeah, this is more of a filler video while I work on some bigger stuff. Anyway, with all that said, I hope you like and subscribe if you like this weird shit. But yeah, stay frosty, you fucks.